The void speaks. Derek Walsh stared at the white isolation tank, its curved lid reminding him of a medical freezer or a coffin. The thought made him shift uncomfortably in the dim light of the float center's private room. "You're sure this is safe?" he asked the attendant, a serene young woman with dreadlocks and a nose ring. "Completely," she smiled, a hint of condescension in her voice. 90 minutes of floating in body temperature water, pure relaxation. The magnesium sulfate helps with anxiety too. She gestured to the tank. "There's an emergency call button inside if you need it, but most people just drift off." The way she said it made his skin crawl, like he was being ridiculous for asking. After 3 months of panic attacks and insomnia, his doctor had finally convinced him to try flotation therapy. "Tech executives are particularly good candidates," she'd said. "Your minds are always racing. This forces you to disconnect." The darkness of the tank was absolute when he closed the lid. The water held him effortlessly, like floating in the Dead Sea. Derek forced himself to breathe slowly, fighting claustrophobia. Gradually, his racing thoughts began to slow. The darkness became less oppressive as his eyes adjusted, or tried to. There was nothing to adjust to. That's when he heard the whisper. "Derek." The voice was feminine, coming from everywhere and nowhere. "I've been waiting for someone like you. Who's there?" Soft laughter, like wind through broken glass. "I exist in the spaces between, where humans become accessible. I can give you what you want, Derek. Power, respect. All I need is a small favor." "Look at how she treated you," the voice continued. "The girl outside, such contempt. Make her pay, just a little. Your tea is scalding hot. Accidents happen." "This isn't real," Derek muttered. "A moment of cruelty. You've thought about it before, haven't you? When people mock your concerns, dismiss you, treat you like you're broken." The worst part was, the voice was right. He had imagined it. When Derek left the tank, his hands were trembling. The attendant barely looked up as he walked to the front desk, tea clutched in his hand. One small movement. That's all it would take. "How was your session?" she asked, that same condescending smile. Derek's hand twitched. Hot tea splashed across the desk, catching her arm. She yelped, jumping back. "Oh God, I'm so sorry," he said, but inside, a warm satisfaction bloomed. The voice in his head purred with approval. He came back the next day, and the next. "Your colleague Thomas," the voice suggested during his third session. "He's going to get the promotion you deserve. His laptop is unlocked when he goes to lunch. One email to HR about his inappropriate behavior would be so easy." Derek did it. Thomas was suspended pending investigation. The promotion was Derek's within a week. "The barista who always gets your order wrong," the voice whispered in his fifth session. "Her tip jar is so full, she doesn't deserve it. Take it. Take it all." He did. The guilty thrill was intoxicating. Each request grew darker, each action easier than the last. The voice's promises grew grander, and strange things began to happen. Shadows moved wrong around him. His reflection sometimes shifted when he wasn't looking directly at it. He could hear thoughts that weren't his own, whispers of other people's darkest desires. "The security guard," the voice commanded in his 10th session. "He needs to disappear. The dumpster behind the building. No cameras there." Derek hesitated for the first time in weeks. "Kill him? I can't." "You can. You will. For power. For me." The voice was right. He would. He already knew it. That night, Derek waited in the shadows, tire iron in hand. His reflection in a darkened window showed solid black eyes, like holes in reality. He smiled. The security guard never saw him coming. They found the float center's tanks filled with strange organic growth a week later, like black coral mixed with fungus. The water had turned viscous, almost alive. But by then, Derek Walsh wasn't Derek Walsh anymore. Something else wore his skin, walked in his steps, smiled with his mouth. The thing that had been Derek moved to another city, seeking new float centers, new isolation tanks. In the darkness, his voice whispers to others now, offering them everything they've ever wanted. All for just a small favor. And somewhere in the void between dimensions, something ancient and patient feeds on each small cruelty, growing stronger with every dark deed, waiting for the day when the barrier between worlds grows thin enough to tear.